Let's bring in the voice of sports on the News and Views Radio Network, Jack Michaels. Don't you recall him giving me 7.5, buddy? Huh?
Are you doing this again, Joel? By the way, you like the points? What is it? You want to get points? Just
why do you think Vegas does points? Because it's a mathematical game.
And that's them.
Nobody calls a better baseball game than you, Bones. Right? Baseball is a game of numbers.
Yes.
Right? I would argue football is a game of numbers.
Yes.
Right?
It's a game of inches.
Game of
3
inches
yards,
and numbers. Yeah.
cloud of dust, that type of thing.
Collision sport of inches.
All right, so the reason that I had hung on to you a little bit here, Danny, is because Jack Michaels and I, he can't do it because he does a show on our brother station, 740 The Fan at noon,
Yeah.
Jack Michaels show. But the truth of the matter is the Christmas gift, the spicy pie.
Yes.
This is going on today?
Yes, it is going on today. That's why I'm hanging around here a little bit. I wanted to talk about it just for a second.
All
if I
right,
can.
so what's the deal?
Well, going on today at Spicy Pie locations in downtown and in West Fargo from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. tonight. They're giving 15% of all their sales to the Christmas gift. On top of that, Epic Companies is matching that 15%, so we'll get a total of 30% of their sales today from Spicy Pie will go to the Christmas gift. We're making holiday dreams come true with the Christmas gift. We'll start on December 1st. It's very touching.
I love it.
So
Bones and I can go.
It's
go. Later in the day, too.
It's for all day,
Till
so
9.
I hope it fits into your schedule. And here's what we'd like you to do. We'd like you to order pizzas or whatever. You check the menu out. There's all sorts of things for your gang at work today.
No sauce.
And then
no sauce.
Don't get sauce on
Do you
checks.
ever, get the chicken bacon ranch?
Allergic.
He can't do bacon.
Spicy pie.
How about just a ranch?
They're such a big sponsor in the baseball season that every time a Red Hawks win, the next day you get half off any 18-inch pizza throughout they've been doing that for a long time. So for Spicy Pie, this is right up their alley, the giving and all that kind of
great.
stuff.
Okay.
Isn't it great? They're so kind to be doing this. So have Spicy Pie at work today, and then when your family's getting together for dinner tonight, have Spicy Pie tonight as well.
Well, and here's what Jack can do. He can watch me eat one. So, all right, good. Thank you.
Maybe breadsticks?
Yeah, I can come up. Well, I'm going to know what. So I can come over and do a
How does he?
no sauce.
You guys got really into that really quick.
Did you see with us?
We don't have much
Kind of
more
like
dancing.
Pavlov's
Do you want to see
monkeys or
3
something.
grown men dance again, Abby?
Please, if you want
Do it.
to, if you want to
Here
see,
we
go to
go.
YouTube.
Just you and I.
Oh, wait, that's the wrong one.
No, get back. I'm not dancing with you,
You
Joel.
wanted to have 3 grown men dance? There it is.
It's
The
just a
fact
cheer
that-
dance, though.
The fact that you all three did different things. How?
We're like the Temptations.
Here's the freaky
You
thing
have
about
no
it.
idea the hidden talent.
That was on YouTube right now.
Oh, was
My
it?
bad.
Oh, I'm so
Live,
sorry.
yes.
I
Yes.
forgot about that.
Was
I'm
Dan
leaving.
Michaels on YouTube too?
No.
Obviously.
No, really, was I?
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
Oh, life is good.
I'm out.
Good work.
If I got to go through the pain, you got to go through the
Oh,
pain.
thanks for sharing your pain,
All
Joel.
right. Thanks, buddy. Good
Thank
luck with
you.
this.
Thanks.
Christmas
It's a big
gift
day.
is a wonderful program. Bones.
Yes. Buyer
Spicy
Insurance.
Pie.
Yeah, Spicy Pie. But a little shout out this quarter hour. Sports, and others. Brought to you by Buyer Insurance Agency.
Buyer Insurance Agency, by the way,
Yes.
really cool people you can trust.
Wahpeton, Milner, local, independent, Jamie, Brian, Nick, they got you covered.
I know these people, and they're good people, and I would add this, that they own the Antelope Creek in Morton, too. Stop in.
Oh, see, yes. Look at you, a little extra action right there.
That's how I've gotten to know them. I stop in. They're good people. They're fun. You get to visit with them, and yeah.
Yeah. Wild were in action last night.
On 4 for the next buck 15. Middleton. Carlson loads up and scores! EK65 picks the top shelf, and it's 3-1.
Boy, the Wild returned home after a nice little road trip, Joel, and they kind of, laid a little flat last night.
Yeah.
4-1, San Jose wins it.
Where do you see this Wild team?
I think they're fantastic.
I do, too.
I think you're going to have games like this. You're just going to have games like this.
Sure. That's professional sports.
But I think in the overall picture, with the depth that they have, and they're sold on a number of different lines, Talbot at times can be, just great, and then at times you don't take advantage. You have some things happen, and last night was one of those nights. So you chalk it up, and they got the Stars tomorrow night.
Yeah. Well, I just think they're going to be fun all year.
Yeah.
with all due respect to the Timberwolves, in previous years, I just quit kind of monitoring how it went. Well, this year, they're so far, they've been exciting too.
If you were to invest in a Minnesota pro sports team right now, which ones would it be?
Actually,
probably the Wild. No, maybe the Vikings.
Yeah, it would be the Vikings. If the Vikings win this weekend, and here's why I say what I say, okay? Because I'm looking to sell my tickets this weekend. I don't think I'm going to go down to the game. And 2 weeks ago, I don't think I could have given them away. And now I've got some people interested in
some value.
Exactly. So it's up, it's down, it's all around.
I'll tell you, if you were to invest in the MSUM Dragon men's basketball team for points, you would have done it before their game yesterday. Joel, they play Crown College, and Chad Walpole's club is a good team, really good team, very deep. They just got done on a couple of these different D2 non-conference tournaments against some of the top teams in the country, and went toe to toe. So they get home last night playing their home opener against Crown College. And the Dragons put up 136 points last
Come on.
night.
Really?
1-3-6 and shot the lights out. Now, I get it. I expected them to probably win the game. Just didn't see what they were, the numbers that they put up were just incredible. You know
who's sleeping in bed right now as we speak?
Who's that?
The referees. Yeah. they're
well, probably,
I'm never reffing one of those games.
In a three-man crew, they probably just didn't even rotate much. They probably just stood there and watched balls drop. I caught the game actually last night. Trevor Kaiser is a UMary transfer. He put in 32. He was 11 of 14 for the field. 11 of 14. It's not like he was shooting 2-footers, 7 of 8 from three-point range. So there you go. Dragons defeat Crown 136-65 yesterday. Valley City State defeating Yellowstone Christian College 111-68. Mayville State got a big win at UMarion men's basketball. So that was yesterday.
Mayville State, they gave the
really
University
good
of North. Yeah,
look at you.
There's something there.
You're right. That was a 68-64 game, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. So there's something there to watch.
Mayville State can shoot it. I'll tell you what, they don't even need a shot clock with the Comet men's team.
When I think of Mayville State, I think of baseball usually.
No,
and basketball. I mean, I don't think of football. With all due respect, they've had a lot of bad years in football, but man, to see this is going to be exciting to watch. It's
really a good sports college, good college. Where were you and I? Remember when you and I went to Mayville and we were at this nice home.
Yeah,
it looked like like Nellie and Little House on the Prairie, the people that own the market.
Where were we?
We were sitting there. You did a show from Mayville. Lovely woman that helped set it.
I remember this.
You remember that?
Yes.
God, that was a handful of years ago. It was a pleasant morning. I just remember hanging out in Mayville.
Here's the thing. I sat down with a map one time, Minnesota, western Minnesota, North Dakota.
Right.
And I said, okay, which town haven't I done a radio show in? It was easier than doing which town have I been in.
He said, come on, Jack, come with me. Yes, let's go. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Yeah. Tomorrow, prep football continues on Minnesota's side, Joel. 9-man has Kitson County Central at 11:30 kickoff tomorrow, semifinal, and all of these are at U.S. Bank Stadium. And then Barnesville tomorrow kicks off at 2 p.m. against Chatfield. So that's going on. The state volleyball tournament gets underway tomorrow in the capital city of Bismarck, North Dakota. Joel, I brought this up. You're a little too young. I'm too young. But, we know the story.
The lead changed back and forth 6 times before the score was finally tied at 29-all. Then the Jets' Jim Turner kicked a 26-yard field goal, and the Jets had the lead with 1 minute 5 seconds left. NBC turned off the uncompleted game in favor of a kiddie special called Heidi.
And the Raiders have now scored 2 touchdowns in 9 seconds and taken the lead.
And the Oakland Coliseum became an enormous secret love-in called the Heidi Bowl.
It'll go down as record. Now, for our younger listeners out there that aren't familiar with this, when you're looking at
Abby.
Abby and even us, but television in the 60s, Heidi, that game, the Julian Goodman was the president of NBC. That game's got to go on at 7 o'clock Eastern time, 6 o'clock Central. So you figured football not back then wasn't like today. Today, football games are 4 hours. It's just long and blah, blah, blah. Back then, you got a football game done in 2.5 hours.
Right.
So Julian Goodman said, this game has to go on because we are airing Heidi, this special, kids movie, the
Which
little
is
girl
big,
in the
yeah.
Alps. Huge.
Yes.
That airs.
All joking aside.
We're airing that. That's got to go on time. Why? Because it had one major sponsor. Coincidentally, Timex. So Timex pays all this money, and it's got to air at the top of the hour. So Julian Goodman, now all of a sudden, here comes the game. Two rivals. and there's lots of penalties, and it's just there's lots of points and penalties, and now the game's getting long. And now those producers, with the message from their president, this Heidi special is running at the top of the hour. They are sweating bullets, Joel, because this game, and they tried to contact the president to see if they can air the game. That's what happened in 1968, and they couldn't really kind of finalize that. What did the producer do? Cut to Heidi at the top of the hour, and Oakland comes back and wins the football game. And like Jets' wives and players and families, because back then, you only had a few channels. You didn't get all of what you got today. Nobody knew that the Raiders had come back in parts of this country,
right?
Because this little kiddies movie. It's infamous how this came down. Could you imagine, Joel? You're in operations. Could you imagine if we deal with that a little bit even on our front?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Come on in here. In fact, I've got a perfect example of what you're talking about. This was named after a cookie.
What?
Hot.
What cookie?
Like Oreo?
This is not the Merry Men.
It is.
The Merry
It
Men?
says it's the Merry Men.
Is it the Merry Men?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who's
Their
saying.
album cover's interesting.
How do you, where do you sit and remember who sings songs like that? I mean, what?
Music is in your DNA.
It's in my DNA.
Music is just in your soul.
But
You
not
don't forget
not
music,
songs
do you?
about Oreo cookies. I mean,
It's about Petito Lay's.
very popular song. Very popular song.
Okay, we were talking about the
Heidi
trouble
get.
you can get in, not coming back, that type of
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
I got to know Jim Adelson really well in this job. It's one of the things I'm the most proud of. And I remember him talking about what can happen to you as a broadcaster when things like that happen and how you handle it professionally.
Jim had a moment like that.
Yeah,
Jim and I did a TV show at local Fox years ago. And thankfully, nothing happened on that. Jim and I hosted, he co-hosted. It was a Vikings report. But back in his earlier days when they did live commercials, I believe Jim and Minot, is that right? I think it was Minot was doing a live spot for Sweetheart Bread, I believe it was.
Sweetheart Bread.
And they thought that the liver was done, and the camera was still on and audio was still up. And I think Jim had squished the bread together and said something about this stuff's half air or something. He made some comment. He was still on the air. God rest his soul. I love Jim too.
Jim Adelson was something. And I will say this, and I will say it until my dying day. Without Jim Adelson, there's no Ed Schultz.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, it was,
plain and simple.
He paved that path.
Yeah.
That style was
he did.
certainly. He was a pioneer.
I want to dance more.
Watch on
look at now
YouTube.
she's dancing. understand the structure of it, because what I called you for was the process of how you eliminate, bow hunting you got a deer population in Fargo, and the deer population is too big. That's something that I think everyone can acknowledge. You set up a system where guys got to be at least 10 feet in the tree. Now they're talking about 12 feet in the tree, and they can only shoot doe. So they're not doing it out there for trophy, but they're trying to eliminate it. Why are you cutting this program out? That's why I called you. I want to know why you're cutting this program out.
Really, it's at the behest of our new police chief. What we're told is that, in a letter that you wrote to the city commission on Monday, that there's an obvious safety concern. And when I asked him at the meeting what that obvious concern is, because it wasn't spoken to at all, it's, well, there's bows. I mean, there's bows in parks. Okay, well, that's interesting, but that's not an obvious safety concern. In fact, this is the safest program in the city of Fargo. There's no other program in our parks that can say that there's been 0 accidents in 15 years. He brought up that cross-country skiers might be afraid at the perception of being hurt by a bow. Well, there's more people hurt every single year cross-country skiing in our parks than there are hurt by bows, because there are 0 people hurt by hunting in our parks. In 15 years, 0 accidents. There is no perception. There is no reality of danger. And I think this was a faulty, thing that the city commission did. I think we should keep the program instead of having to pay what they call sharpshooters to control the population.
Yesterday I heard part of the conversation with Tyler Axness on Afternoons Live, and the numbers, the individual he had on called in and was one of the organizers of it, and he just what we call cold called in, because he heard the conversation with the chief, and he just disputed some of what he had heard. And when he started giving out the facts, the process, the accreditation, the education, all of that, I just kept thinking, this is a system. This isn't just willy-nilly, hey, if you got a bow license, help us. I mean, this truly was a lot of thought put into reducing this deer herd. And I guess I need to know, is that part of the conversation that's happening at the Fargo City Commission meeting?
Yeah, everyone knows that you have to go through certain hoops to do this. You have written tests, you have physical tests, archery tests, and you have standards that you have. You have to write your name on the bow with your phone number. If you lose it, you have to report it. The police chief gave out numbers like that we lost 60 bows in the last 4 years. That's not true. That simply isn't true. So I hope that was part of the conversation with the commissioners when they were talking about this with the police chief. Every number didn't come up during the city commission meeting because we assumed that most people knew them. But yeah, it's not a program that was haphazardly put together and done over the years. 15 years with 0 accidents is unheard of for any program, and it's really disappointing that we ended this program under the guise of safety.
What was there a call from the public against it? What was there a push from the public saying, "Look, we got to get rid of this"?
No, before this was brought up by the police chief, there was no conversation about this whatsoever. This was brought up randomly at one of our city commission meetings, where the chief said he just wanted to end it that night. Well, what the heck? I mean, let's talk about it. So we did have some talk, and then we did get some citizens who were for and against it, obviously. But one of the things that the police chief talked about reasons for getting rid of it was he said he got a petition of 300 signatures that said people wanted to get rid of it. Well, the vast majority of people that wrote on that petition were not from the city of Fargo. There were some people from Canada that were on that thing. There were some people from a different state on that thing. So that's not a petition that holds any weight. And to use that as one of the reasons to get rid of this program simply is not correct.
So how many arrows were found? Because really, if you're 10 foot up in a tree, first off, you're not hunting for trophy here. You're hunting does, right? So they're enjoying the sport of archery. I get it, and you've got a deer you harvested. I get that as well. But to sit there and think that they're getting all aggressive because they're going for horns, that's not the case. And so then if that is in fact the case that you're shooting down, you and I both know, we've both shot bow, where that's going to hit, where it's going to end up. It's not like you're Robin Hood attacking the castle here, and so. No. Have they found a bunch of arrows that got away where the razor edge was there cutting people up?
There's only been one report that I'm aware of where someone found an arrow, and that didn't hurt anybody. It was just found. you're required as a hunter, if you shoot and miss, you are required to go get that arrow. If you can't find it, then you must report that you couldn't find it, and there is a fine that can be levied for that. And the fine is more than the hunting license is. So in all this time, we've had one that I'm aware of that was found. I'm sure there's more that have been lost. But like you said, it's not like it's skipping into someone's property or something like that. It's getting buried into the ground. And again, you have to write your name and your phone number on that every single one of those arrows if you go out hunting. So there is no problem here. And if they are found and if people aren't being responsible, they'll be punished with a fine and they will not be able to hunt anymore. And there could be other consequences. So
I know that you have to get somewhere quick, so just tell me when you got to go. But I have to ask you this: is this done? I mean, if I'm sitting there, North Fargo is where I have some friends, and they're sick of them. I mean, they're sick of the deer. They're sick of the deer. Deer don't belong in town is their philosophy, and and they liked the program because at least they felt it was doing something about it. So, is this a done deal?
Yeah, this will be the last question. There's 2 more readings. So we'll have 2 more opportunities to vote to get rid of this ordinance to disallow hunting in Fargo. So if people start emailing and calling and meeting with the commissioners, hopefully we can turn one of those votes. It was a 3-2 vote to get rid of the hunting in Fargo. If we can turn one of those votes, then the program will stay in place.
Okay. Commissioner, thank you. Appreciate you coming
on. Thank you, sir.
Fargo City Commissioner Tony Gehrig. Here's my question. Is this a problem? With all due respect to Chief Zawolski, I mean, is this a problem or are we just looking at something where there was a good system set up and just because there's this whole theory of hunting in the city limits that it's gone away or it's going away? They'd have the chief, as much as I respect him and I wish him all the best, and I think he's a very professional man. He'd have a really, really hard time convincing me to vote to get rid of this program. I mean, it's something in search of a problem, and there's no problem. It's working. The program is working. And so what do you think? Am I wrong about this? I'd love to hear from you. 237-5948, 1-800-880-5346. Want to just throw this out. Somebody text in. North Fargo and Moorhead, an area of the old toll bridge, a herd of 30-plus deer, 4 or 5 fawns every year, thousands of dollars in property damage. Thin the herd. I guess you'd have to count me in with you. We're taking your messages, your phone calls here on our Laney's News and Views studio line right after this. I asked Tyler Axness to come up to the studio, and he did. He's host of Afternoons Live right here on the Mighty 790 KFGO. Axman, I've got to ask you: is this a solution in search of a problem? I mean, we were talking about the bow hunting in Fargo, and I listened to your show yesterday.
Thanks.
Well, you're welcome. I listen to it quite often, quite frankly. But what really came out, and I don't remember the name of one of the organizers that you spoke to. Paul.
Yeah.
Paul called in, and I just was riveted by his. He explained the accreditation, the process, and everything that went into it.
Yes.
And it's very professional.
It is. In fact, I would say there's more hurdles, and I don't mean that as a negative, more hurdles to get the ability to bow hunt within city limits than it is if you were to go to Hankinson or me up to Leeds and Devil's Lake area just to go and sit in a tree stand. I mean, the requirements to make sure this is done in a safe manner, and if that's what the chief is saying, it's all about safety, there wasn't a whole lot of argument there. I mean, I just heard Commissioner Gehrig on your show saying, look, there's one incident in which somebody found an arrow. No one got hurt, so if this is safety, it's a pretty weak argument as of now.
Right. I mean, if one could make an argument that, people's cars get dinged up, or if you hit a deer going around a corner, you got a worse chance of getting hurt than that.
Yeah.
Or a better chance, I should say.
There is an opportunity, or there is a moment in any given activity to where something, an accident could happen. That hasn't been the case in the over a decade this has been going on. Paul, who called into the show yesterday, said, look, I've been part of this organization and helping this run for about 15 years. Avid bow hunter. We've heard about the numbers being harvested, and saying he made the argument that the success rate of harvesting your deer inside city limits is better than what it is statewide.
Right. And he talked about rifle hunting, obviously statewide, and the success rate there. In other words, they're getting the does shot.
They are.
They're taking
and
care
I think
of
that's
reducing
important when we're talking about trying to control the population. Right. It's the does that need to be controlled and harvested. So,
had you, how many years now you've been doing radio in the afternoon?
4.
And you have focused on this community a lot. How many calls have you ever gotten in about somebody complaining about hunters in Fargo?
Not a single one.
Not one?
Not a single one. In fact, it's quite the opposite. In particular, when it comes to the turkey population across the metro. And I think that's the one they're saying, well, we might do away with that one. But I haven't heard anybody say, you know what, I really am opposed to this. And when we had the conversation yesterday, I challenged listeners, if you think this needs to go, here are the phone numbers. Text me. And not a single person came in opposed. In fact, I would say that what happened yesterday was rallying of those pro hunters in the metro saying, look, we got to get up to these next 2 meetings and make sure this doesn't go away.
I would add this, that there's going to be some big issues that the chief has to deal with. I mean, there are. Don't pick ones like this so that it's like, well, we gave you that one, and you got us in trouble on that one. And so now this one, no, I'm not. I mean, pick your fights. Well, this isn't worthy of a fight.
No,
it really isn't.
And I mean, I gave the chief credit for being, I think, visionary and trying to get this public advisory board that they're trying to get off the ground. I'm like, this is great work. To have this unnecessary step over something that, quite frankly, sounds like it's successful. There hasn't been any issues. I don't understand it.
Right. I mean, I'm not going to agree with Commissioner Gehrig, and he's not going to agree with me. In fact, a bunch of times we're not going to agree. But the commissioner went against the commission, and it was just an advisory commission. I'm with the chief on that. Excuse me. I think that the chief's doing something good on that.
Same.
But that's big. That's bold. This is a small little potato type thing.
And when I was listening to KFGO News yesterday about this topic, hearing Commissioner Gehrig's comments about the safety issue, he was spot on, in my opinion. And then to have the conversation with Paul, one of the organizers, saying, look, we meet every so often to make sure, right now they have the limitation of 10 feet. You got to be up in your tree stand. Let's move that up to 12 for the trajectory to be down on that. I mean, they are trying as best they can to make this even more safe. So if it's the safety issue versus the other argument being, well, we don't want law enforcement to be spending time on this program. I bet you Parks and Rec and others, including North Dakota Game and Fish, are willing to find ways to get the administration piece away from Fargo PD.
I guarantee you this. Law enforcement will be spending time going to neighborhoods where someone took a .22 out a window and shot a deer. And drug it onto the neighbor's yard because there's no love for these deer in Fargo.
No, and when I heard you read a text about 30 head in one downtown, somebody did try to text in yesterday. Now, this is all doe hunting. apparently there's a drop tying buck somewhere, and I'm not going to give the area in town along the river, but yeah, they're moving in.
Well, the other thing that these individuals are saying is that, okay, another issue. When the river floods, deer are forced out of the ravines into the neighborhoods. They run scared between houses up and down the streets. It's definitely dangerous then. And another one, Joel, what are they trying to fix? There's no problem here.
Yeah, I'm right. I'm there with it. I'm there with the vast majority of your listeners. Right
is he going to go to the city commission meeting and explain the process so that other commissioners aren't just hearing from the chief on this?
Yeah, well, I'm guessing that Paul that called in and the people listening right now said, look, I'm going to be there too. I'm thinking that this might get people tuning out. So.
Well, Paul, you sold me yesterday. I will tell you that. That call into Afternoons Live made a difference with at least one person. So
me as well.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks.
When we come back, we're going to hear from the Heitkamp Zoo. We're going to head to Sanford and talk about 49 million golden parachutes. We got a lot to do today.
accreditation after, it's an every 5-year process. I first want to say that we are not governed by the AZA. The AZA was a choice to join as a support organization, and I think that that's maybe confusing for people. I mean, last year we got the Quarter Century Award from the AZA for 25 years of uninterrupted accreditation, and nobody really commented. They're like, what's the AZA? We did a press release. Nothing happened with that. It was like, oh, okay, whatever. And this year with the denial, of course, then everybody, knows more about the AZA. But we have been accredited since 1995. It's the first assignment for me at Heitkamp, if you will. I'm glad that we did it because I learned a lot about Heitkamp as a new director, and it sets our standards really high. So it was a very good support organization. But we are governed by North Dakota Animal Board of Health and USDA. Those are our governing agencies. AZA is a very good support organization, which we pay dues, we pay fees to belong to, as well as getting the accreditation process. This June, a team of inspectors came, and they went through the zoo. They spent several days going through the zoo, met with the team, went in every building, went through the records. It's very stringent process. I like that because their job is to find things to help us improve. Well, the report we actually published with our press release, you can see that on our Facebook as well. But it does list the achievements, which there are many, notable achievements that they found that stand out. And there's a lot of compliments to the staff, the management, animal welfare. Everything is in good standing there. Then there's a list of several, I think 6 or 7 lesser concerns, which we addressed with the commission between that and our hearing time in October. There were no major concerns listed, and I want to note that without a major concern, it is very rare that you would be denied. We haven't had a major concern in 15 years. So yes, this was a surprise to us. So addressing those things and going into the hearing of between 20 and 24 people from the AZA on their colleagues and the AZA accreditation director, staff, and we're given questions to address. Some things came up that were not on the concern list, but we addressed them the best that we could. I believe this is a very political move. There was one thing that got brought up, and it was, are you circumventing, this is a difference of opinion, but are you circumventing SSP, seeking SSP Animal Species Survival Plan, which is not a law or a mandate, but when you belong to the AZA, you want to do things through the SSP, which is not completely AZA, but it is a way of keeping in with the conservation efforts for that species. And as you know, Joel, we were waiting on SSP tigers to come in that were scheduled to come in this winter after our new habitat's being built. And so it was an empty habitat. We were in 2020. Our curator did talk to the SSP, and that was the question of should we have waited for SSP cheetahs. In the meantime, we acquired cheetahs through a conservation agency, a ZAA facility, which is another accreditation association. Some zoos belong to. Some zoos are dually accredited. So we received these tigers from a reputable facility. These cheetahs. And that was questioned by the commission during the hearing. Another thing is something very small, the signage, which was commended by the team that came in. We work with NDSCS. You're very familiar with them. We work with the Math and Science Department and their biology team, chair of department, and the students made our signs. We work with them. It's very good. We presented at the AZA conference in San Diego with NDSCS, received great commendation on that. And that was one thing that was listed by the commission is they didn't think our signage was up to par. A tortoise shell, misshaped tortoise shell that came into us as from another facility. We knew that it had somewhere in the tortoise's lifetime, something happened with nutrition probably. We received this tortoise with this form shell. And it was like that when we got it. We kept him. He's there for his lifetime. So that was commented on. So it seems very small, seems very little. And I believe that at this time, my board of directors, as you can see in the press release, is chosen to, we don't know where the future is going with AZA. We chose not to appeal because when you look at these concerns, we're not even certain where that association is going. So we decided, what is there to appeal? How am I going to fix things that we don't agree with? And we've chosen to separate at this time, wishing everybody well, but nonetheless wishing to separate at this time.
You said that you felt it was political. The AZA, as you pointed out the year before, said, hey, 25 years of accreditation, way to go. Here's your high five. Here's your certificate. And the next year they take away your accreditation. Did this come completely out of left field? Or when you say it's political, what's driving it? Because what you're seeing play out in the media is you're seeing, staff members, some anonymous, some not anonymous anymore, coming out and criticizing your management of the zoo. And so I want to make sure today you get a chance to respond to that, if you can, and you can say what your side of that is.
I do hear from people. People send me what's on there. I don't go on there and read every single question. Through the years, we've had hundreds of employees. Through the years, we have some disgruntled employees, never disgruntled on site. When they leave under good wishes, everything, and then all of a sudden there's a collusion formed or something happens and it gets built up and built up. The problem is to stave that off is impossible. Even if I could comment on them as individuals, I would not, because it's not professional. And as a former employer, it's wrong for me to call them out and to give their situation or to give their health or to give their incidents that may have happened at the zoo. So it's highly unprofessional to say, hey, I know this person and here's what happened. And I won't do that.
Okay.
However, I will say that, and I say this openly, as does my board of directors, that we are here. You know where we are. You have an axe to grind. You're uncomfortable with something. You disagree with something. Come see us. Best time would have been then, but if you want a bone to pick, axe to grind, whatever the case, we're an open book. We're very transparent with what happened at the zoo. We have it out there on media. We will continue. We wish everybody well. There's a lot of untruths out there, and I can't do anything about that. To sit behind my keyboard and fire back is not making any progress. I know it sounds weak, but it's actually not. It's strong, because I'm not going to lower my standards on how I would treat people as individuals or what I would say about them.
I understand that. Let's get beyond an individual then and get to one of the claims, so that you don't have to sit there and for that matter take on an individual. You get to address what they might be saying. One of the comments they're saying is that they're constantly understaffed, and that young zookeepers would get hired so that they'd be easier to tell, from your standpoint, for you to tell them what to do. And then the other issue that they brought forward are the animal safety issues. And so I want to make sure you get a chance to respond to that. Are you hiring too young of zookeepers so that you can control them? And are there animal safety issues here?
There's absolutely everyone that this is not true. There is. First of all, let's talk about the animals. Let's go to the first word first. We hire people that have a science degree. So once they get that 4-year degree, how old are they at that time? These are not teenagers. These are adults who come in with a science degree, either zoology, biology. We had environmental scientists. I don't know, define too young. They have a college degree in the sciences, and they typically we hire, and we get a lot of applicants. We get a lot of applicants. We put that on the then on the AZA site, and we get over 100 applicants in 72 hours. I mean, we get a lot because there's a lot in the field, and in most cases, besides the interviews, we look at their internships, and most of them have done internships. Some we have hired from our own internships, because an internship's like a working interview. So we do feel that we hire the cream of the crop. We're not going to settle for somebody we don't think is going to cut it. We do get people from all over, and zookeeping is hard work. You work very hard on the job. You must constantly be aware of your surroundings. Your head must be in the game. And that goes right down to safety. And our habitats is keeper areas typically have 3 entrances in, 2 locks per door. And if there's a mistake made, things can happen. This happens not just at big zoos. It happens in small zoos. It doesn't happen in small zoos. It happens in big zoos. Must constantly be aware. When something does happen, and it's been very few accidents or incidents at Heitkamp, we look at that protocol. What went wrong? Who did this? How did we remedy it? There was an incident on that was, and again, I'm not going to go to the individual, but there was one noted that we looked at, and we went back to the file to look at it, although it was very fresh in our mind, and looked at the error that happened in the keeping. That does not make that individual inept. It was an error. When that happened, that whole program and how we did that was stopped. Because if it happens once, it could happen again, and it was too much to happen once. We're not going to be doing the same when it happens again for that protocol, for that individual species and that individual specimen of that animal. And so it's horrific when something happens to your staff. It's not, you don't go, oh, well, you take it very seriously. We care about the individuals. We do the health reports with them. We see if we can help with anything after the fact. And reminding these keepers, or I say keepers, could be anybody, could have an accident, but these staff on how to follow up, because maybe at the time it's not a big issue. They heal, they're okay, but maybe down the road they have situations with it. And we remind people that there are people in place to help with that without getting in their daily health business, which of course is very private. Those things are in place, available for that staff. But is one injury too much? Absolutely. And so we try to remedy everything that we can for that. Our safety, our animal welfare, our animal care, our veterinary, as you know, as you see and you know, has not been questioned in any of these reports, inspections by any organization, AZA, USDA, Animal Board of Health.
Okay. Kathy, I know you've got to get to a meeting. We could talk about the specifics if you want. One of the claims that came out was a fossa attacked a couple of zookeepers, and they're struggling with injuries. If you want to address that concern, I think you just spoke to it a little bit. But I don't want to leave this interview without just giving you a blank slate here to say what you want to say, because in so many of these cases, the criticisms can come out, and I've been through this in 17 years of radio, and some of that type of thing are valid, and they cause conversations, which is really the goal. But the individual doesn't give a chance to respond back, and so you really have no filter here to say what happens with the zoo now. Where are you taking the zoo in light of all of this?
The zoo is strong. And you know, Joe, the AZA has very high standards, as does Heitkamp Zoo. So they're not the only one that was setting our standards. We set our standards, have been there 30 years. Do we learn something every single day on the job? Yes, we do. Absolutely. And we go forward and onward. We have many conservation partners. The zoo is strong. The zoo is going to continue. And reminding people, we're saddened by the denial, but looking at the future, we believe that this is the strongest thing that we can do at this time. There's other accreditation agencies. Will we seek them out? Perhaps, because I like that support system when it lends support. And I think that we want to do everything that we can do to measure what we're doing. And we're going to continue with our endangered species, plight of the endangered species. We're going to continue with our programs. We're going to continue with education. Everything that we're doing, we're going to do and continue to do better as we do each year, as we've done each year through the decades. And I've got a great team. I've got a great board of directors, and they're on top of things. They're not like saying, "Oh, here you go. Do you have free reign?" We work together all the time. This is something that we work very hard for. Heitkamp Zoo is not going away. There's life after the AZA. We count on our partners. Absolutely want to thank the people who have come forward and said, "What's going on? This is not true." Whether it be, I've been to the zoo a million times. I work at the zoo now. I worked at the zoo in the past. These are all, good things. And we've gotten mountains of testimony from people, some of them not posted, some of them personal, sent to me or my board or my staff, saying, keep on keeping on. We're coming to the zoo. We're going to support the zoo even more. And they're saddened by what they're hearing. And, again, without speaking about individuals, which I won't do, and we always learn from things, and we always do better. And we're here. We're not going away. We've got some really good things coming up in 2022 and beyond. And if people want to get involved, give us a call, email us, however we can get to you, you send to us, and we'll respond the same way in the same venue so we can get you on board.
Kathy Dickman, Zoo Director at Heitkamp Zoo. Thank you for coming on, Kathy. I appreciate this conversation.
Thank you for the time, Joel. We always
Welcome back to the News and Views Radio Network. I want to get a chance to talk to you a little bit about the Heitkamp Zoo, and I have some biases here. I'm not going to lie to you. I have been going to that zoo for a long time. When people took on zoos, you remember that, when people were constantly, and there still are those individuals who just simply don't like zoos, and many times they put themselves in roles of animal rights activists, where if you ask more questions, you end up with more things that I disagree with, and more and more and more that I disagree with. So it ends up being one of those conversations where if there's some of what they're saying is right and needs to be looked at, it's hard, because you end up in a way deeper debate about whether or not you eat the right things, for example. But that being said, totally feel guilty going to the zoo, right? And Heitkamp Zoo is near where my kids grew up, and it's near where my grandkids are growing up. And so it's been and I've done radio there. I know Tom, I know Kathy. So, I mean, there's some full disclosure there. If you think I was biased in the conversation I just had, I know that there are employees, and those employees are not anonymous anymore, former employees, and they've come out with criticism of Heitkamp Zoo. You're going to have to do your fact check it on your own, see what you think, and make your decisions based on that. To me, Kathy works for a board of directors. Okay, she doesn't own the zoo, and so she answers to someone. So keep that in mind. If you think, well, this is all just her, well, there's a board of directors there. And if there is a problem, it's up to the board of directors to fix it. If there isn't a problem, it's up to the board of directors to stand behind their employee and support her. That's what board of directors do. I worked for a board of directors for 23 years. And I remember board of directors taking me to the woodshed when I did something wrong, which is good. When you do something wrong, you should get taken to the woodshed. And I remember board of directors sticking up for me when I didn't do anything wrong and somebody was mad at me. And they said, no, that's what we pay him to do. And he did his job. And so the system works. In this particular case, we're going to see how it plays out in the end. Because if they get it wrong, they're going to pay that ultimate price. And it appears this accreditation, well, if you're going to say, hey, we got an award for being accredited by them for 25 years, I don't think that the next year you can pretend it's no big deal to lose that accreditation. I don't think that that's fair. And if she makes the argument that, hey, we put out this notice that we were accredited for 25 years and we just got an award for being there for 25 years and none of you paid attention to it. Okay. Yes. I think that is fair for her to say. And now the media wants to make a big deal out of losing the accreditation. That isn't what this is about. This is about the fact that you've got individuals who are, taking a look at this and saying, this is happening. And that comes from former employees who now are not anonymous. They're putting their names forward. So if you're that board of directors, you got to check into it. And if you find out that Kathy and Tom and the people that they hire are doing a good job, back them. If you find you got problems, fix it. I'm going to give you some names. I now know who the board of directors are because, quite frankly, Abby did the homework. Wayne Hardy, Trudy Belmore, Tim Matz, Alyssa Barth, Lonnie Halverson, Ben Oliver, and John Bullis. I know pretty much every name on there because that's where I live. I mean, that's around where I live, and it's now incumbent upon them to do their job. There, I'll let it be after that. Kathy is getting a lot of messages in here that of people that support her. But one says, Kathy said it was political, but didn't really answer your question about what drives her to feel that way. Another one, if there's animal safety issues, where are the injured animals? So, all right, there we go. I'm going to seg to a different subject here, which is a subject that takes you to $49 million. Okay. This one is black and white for me. This one is not gray area in terms of my beliefs about what's right, what's wrong here. The Internal Revenue Service documents detailed that 49 million, not 49,000, not 490,000, not 4.9 million, $49 million was paid to former Sanford CEO Kelby Krabenhoff. So this was T. Denny's man. This was his right-hand man. This was the guy that basically ran Sanford. And so let me ask you this. You've got people that are out there fighting COVID like crazy. And he got in trouble because he poo-pooed the whole mask situation in the beginning while his hospital was telling people you have to wear masks. Remember? I mean, that's what got him canned. Somebody pointed out that Lonnie Halverson passed away this fall, and that's true. So I should have pointed that out when I read it. But Kelby Krabenhoff went on the record as being an anti-mask type individual, right? While the places that he was managing were telling you to wear masks. So big strike, major pandemic, all those things, paid the price, and I always wondered whether there were other things, but found himself unemployed. Well, here's the big issue. There's two people that I thought of right away when I thought of $49 million paid to the Sanford CEO, Kelby Krabenhoff, to go away. Number one, I thought of the employees. I thought of how incredibly tired they are. I thought about how Sanford is in so desperate of a need for these employees. I thought about the people working double shifts. I thought about the people that had put their life in danger and really didn't make that much money. They didn't. For many of these people, medicine is a calling. I mean, that's why they're doing it. This is something they always wanted to work in, right? They didn't do it to make $49 million. They didn't do that. So let's keep that in mind. You've got an institution that's hollering at people like me. Talk about getting nurses' aides. We need nurses' aides. Talk about getting LPNs. We need more LPNs. Well, here's a thought. Do you know how many people's educations you can pay for with $49 million? You can pay for a lot. You can pay for a lot of people's tuition at $49 million. There is no one on his way out the door who is having his job taken away from him that is worth $49 million. Now, there's another group of people I want you to think of, and that's yourself. How many times have you gone to the hospital and you got your copay and you looked at it and said, whoa, really? That's what I'm going to have to fork out? I mean, these hospital expenses, look at what the hospital expenses are. Man, how many times have you seen people not do preventive work when it comes to medicine or when it comes to, getting ahead of issues because they can't afford it, right? The first thing they think of is, I can't afford it. How many times do you see that? And what happens? That money, where is it going? It isn't going to that woman who just worked a double shift in the ICU ward. That money is time and a half. That's what you get. Time and a half, and just be happy. Oh, by the way, there aren't enough of you. You got to work a double shift today. They're not getting rich doing this. They're not. Kelby Krabenhoff got $49 million, and go look at your bill from the hospital. Go look at it and see what that bill says. And then ask yourself if some of that bill didn't go to $49 million. And I want to keep one other thing in mind, too. This is a nonprofit. This is supposedly a nonprofit, right? So this is set up to get by on basically my history of nonprofit used to be at about a 15% margin, right? You go over 15%, you're making profit. And so this is a nonprofit who takes advantage of every possible thing that the federal government gives them. Every possible thing, every possible program, everything that you can possibly have. Now, the worst part about all of this is no one's going to rein them in. In North Dakota, we've got an attorney general who is not going to rein him in. Heck, he's going to love the fact that they did this. Nobody wants to tick off Denny Stanford. I mean, nobody wants to pick on Denny Stanford. They're afraid of him. Not only that, but they love the relationship. They love the hugs. They love the kisses. They love the donations. They love that, right? This is, in my view, this is one of the biggest insults to all of those doctors, all of those nurses, all of those people who suit up every day and go to work in these fine facilities and do as good a job as they can for you. I'm not criticizing the physicians. I am not criticizing the nurses. I am not criticizing the individuals working in the cafeteria or scrubbing the floors. Because quite frankly, you don't matter diddly. You don't. You're not Kelby Krabenhoff, and when something goes wrong, you're not going to get $49 million in severance to go out the door. That's what happened here. And I don't know if you believe that this is right or wrong. I just know what I believe. But I do want to know what you do. 1-800-880-5346. There's $49 million. All right, let's head to the Weather Cave and visit with Too Tall Tom. We'll get to some of these calls after the break. What do you have for me, Tom? 237-5948, 1-800-880-5346. That's our Laney's News and Views studio line. And, of course, you can always check us out on YouTube as well. Let's get to the phone lines. And you know what? Jim, you're first out of the chute. Go ahead, Jim.
Hey, I mean, does it even surprise you at all? I mean, it's corporate health care. And they all talk a great big talk on their values. But when the rubber hits the road, we see what it's all about. I mean, $49 million compensation package. I'm just curious about all those healthcare workers that end up catching COVID on the job. Did they get any compensation whatsoever? As far as the ones I know, they didn't. They had to use their own vacation time just to cover their time off.
Yeah.
You know, and they're some of the lowest paid workers in the country in this state. It just boggles my mind.
Jim, you're going to shake your head a lot when I read off some of these text messages. I thank you for calling in. I recognize the voice, and while I've never met him face to face, I do know that he works in the medical field. So, you know, Kelby didn't pay the price. He got paid his price. This is absolutely unconscionable. Another example of the medical industry is why they aren't trusted. They're all about money, greed, power. I think it's terrible that they asked for money to help the Sanford Children's Hospital, and then they pay out $49 million to the CEO, and they call themselves a nonprofit. That's bullcrap. Someone said so much for Sanford being nonprofit. Another one. The $49 million is a slap to the face of all of us working in the medical community and continue to struggle working in the medical field. We're tired. I think that individual said a lot right there. I think they did. Another one. Sanford pays $49 million, but yet fundraisers are held for the Children's Hospital. Put some of the money towards kids. I'll tell you this, though. I will help that Children's Hospital raise money every chance I can. It's one of the best, and so when that comes up, I don't want you saying I'm a hypocrite, because I believe in it. I believe what the Children's Hospital does is vitally important, and if you want to donate, you can. If you don't have to. But I will help them every way I can. Another one. Sanford just forced another pay cut on their ER physicians in Fargo. Not sure if it was in Sioux Falls also. Someone wrote in, when Krabenhoff wrote the letter saying that he wouldn't be wearing a mask, it was a gut punch to the employees. $49 million is another one. Excuse me, folks. Let's get back to the phone lines, and we'll get to Ken. Ken, you're on News and Views.
Yeah, good morning, Joel. This is a prime example, Joel, of the inequity of the egregious compensation given to CEOs of all major corporations, including all nonprofits. This is a prime example. And many of your listeners brought out that, look at when it comes to Giving Hearts Day. You advocate for Sanford so strongly and for the Roger Maris Cancer Center, for the good that they do. But it is such a gut punch to all the employees and whatnot of Sanford and such. It is so egregious. But this isn't just the healthcare industry. It's across the whole board of all major corporations.
Yeah. Thank you, Ken. The text message that ended with, "We're tired." I mean, that says a lot, does it not, ladies and gentlemen? Imagine waking up that morning. You're going to have to work a shift, if not a shift and a half. You're going to get some overtime. You're going to get taxed at a higher rate because of all of that. And you've got somebody who could care less about tax because he is the owner's right-hand man in Kelby Krabenhoff. He gets a $49 million golden parachute when he says something with his head up his butt. $49 million. I'd be ticked too if I were those employees. All right, let's get back to work. 237. I keep forgetting now. That wasn't on the TV camera, was it?
It was.
Really?
Yep.
You did that to me? Abby and I used to dance to the bump music in here.
Well, you still can. People just get to see it now.
No, life changes.
We're both on
right?
camera right now.
Life changes, and now that there's a camera, I just can't be doing things like I normally do.
You have to sit with a poker face. What fun is that?
Got to be more mature, right?
Good luck.
You don't think I can be more mature?
Maybe you can.
Small steps?
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
I'm not the one going to, Arizona this weekend?
Yeah. Bachelorette party.
Small steps.
Small steps.
You need bail money now, or how are you going to work this?
I'll call you.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
you can
I'll be
just
there
send
for
it.
you. I don't even like the thought of you sitting in the Huskow. Okay.
In an Arizona jail.
If I would have told you Huskow, would have you understood what that was?
No.
You would have.
I've never heard that word.
You've never once heard the Huskow. I don't even know why it's that name. It was the dad name. I hope it's not something.
Something
You know,
bad.
it's like when you say the word, it's like, oh man, I hope it isn't racist or it isn't,
I have not heard it before.
That's what Dad called it.
I
Don't get
would
your butt stuck in the Huskow.
I would defend myself, and I don't think I would go to jail. Maybe someone else in the party. I don't know. I think
You'd
not
be
me.
the one getting them out?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, maybe my roommate.
Oh, I could see her getting thrown in jail.
Not,
I've met
not
your
the,
roommate.
Not the bride. She'll be fine. She'll be in bed by 9, actually.
I want to get to some of these messages. Somebody said, now my doctor has retired, so I'm looking at changing medical care providers altogether. That's what happens, right? My doctor retired too. And I don't think he should have gotten to. Was Dr. Osmo your doctor down in the Wahpeton area?
No.
Okay, well, he was mine. Yours
yeah.
did too, though. I bet you had Halverson then, right?
I did have Halverson, and then I switched at one point to Dr. Berge.
Okay. Well, maybe that's who I
love
got to
them
call.
both.
I can't go see my daughter. Who, full disclosure.
Sherry Berge, she's my girl.
Okay. Somebody said with cameras, don't pick your nose. That's a 50-50 deal.
That's for the breaks.
Yeah. Said my wife recently left Sanford as a nurse after 20 years and took a school nurse position for $4 per hour raise, better benefits, and more time off. They're never going to get her back. Never going to get her back. Joel, how did these businesses become nonprofit? They make very large profit, obviously, since they pay huge salaries. the big nonprofit organizations. Somebody said, Joel, I want to point out that you are inaccurate when you say employees only receive time and a half for extra shifts. But yes, they are weary, and extra money doesn't solve that. Another one. Dems and Republicans need to stop fighting each other. Our real problem is the corporations and the wealthy that keep us fighting each other. Joel, and Republicans wonder why we need oversight and regulation. Idiots. Another one. Sanford's board of directors should all be terminated. Another one. Joel, I'll continue to support Sanford Children's Hospital too, because Sanford clearly isn't putting their money where it is vitally important. I'm with you. You're not going to get me to not support that children's hospital. I'm all in on that. And I can tell you this too, and this is very important. I have been to Sanford. I know the people that work in Sanford. I have had people from Sanford on this radio show during this pandemic. Good professional people doing a good job. What we're talking about here is management. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about a man, Kelby Krabenhoff, who got himself in trouble with his cavalier, I'm going to go hunting type attitude, and he got $49 million in severance. Do I need to say that again? $49 million in severance. Do you know how many LPNs that would have paid for? Do you know how many LPN nursing students' tuition that would have paid for? Do you have any idea how much the average RN makes, right? I mean, how do you justify in a nonprofit organization paying a golden parachute to somebody to $49 million? If you're an employee at Sanford and you picked up the news that day, you went on any one of this family of radio stations' websites and you clicked in and it said, all right, whoa. What? And you're going in that day and you're going to work a shift, and then they're going to come up to you and say, we need you a little longer because we're short nurses, aides, we're short house cleaners, housekeepers, we're short all of these things. We need you. And because we can't find anybody to help you, we got to keep you a little bit longer. Come on, would you? Don't leave us. I mean, yeah, here's a little something, a little something isn't $49 million. Person said I had foot surgery 6 years ago and stayed in the hospital 3 days, and plates and pins were put into my foot that cost $60,000. Thank God I had good insurance. The screws were like $1,300 a piece, and I had 6 of them in my foot. I had 3 plates put in, and those were twice as much as the screws. Where that is ridiculous. Getting $49 million as a severance package is beyond ridiculous. And if everyone loves Sanford so much, that us, the man Sanford, better look where he's sitting now in South Dakota with all the charges. All right, I know where they're going with that. Here's another person. Maybe don't fire Kelby when he was right about masks. Are you totally missing the point? Are you that political that you can't realize what the point is here? We can debate masks. We can debate all of that. Kelby Krabenhoff's organization was telling us to and making us wear masks. So for that, I could tell you where to put your comment, but I think you understand what I'm getting at with it, right? His organization, the one that he was the head of, was telling us to wear those masks. So that is a completely ridiculous argument that you tried to turn into politics, right? But where you've totally missed it is to sit there and justify him getting $49 million in severance pay, all because he was against masks. It's a nonprofit. Healthcare is going through the roof. Workers are tired. And this man, who's out there pheasant hunting every day of the week, showing pictures with him, with every rock star out there, this man gets a $49 million severance package. What does that say to those people? If I walked over to Sanford in Fargo right now, And I walked through those hallways and I said, thank you for what you're doing. Because quite frankly, they're doing everything they can and they're doing one hell of a job. If I walked through and I did that, and then I said, what do you think about Kelby Krabenhoff settlement? Do you know what those workers would say? Do you have any idea what they'd say as long as there wasn't a microphone in front of them? Because I do. And you know how I know? Because I've been getting those phone calls. Yesterday, we had some things to cover. We didn't get on this. I got home last night. I had messages on my phone like crazy asking me, why did you avoid this subject? Well, you know what? Right now, I'm not avoiding this subject. It's yours. It's right here, and you can talk about it. Let's get to Fred. Fred, you're on News and Views.
No, I'm not avoiding this subject.
Fred, you got your radio on in the background.
Right here, and you can talk about it.
I'm going to put you on hold till you get your radio turned down. Abby will talk to you on the break, and we'll see if you're ready to go then. Let's get to the weather cave and visit with Too Tall Tom. Tom? thought she should turn the camera on now or then or when. I have to cough every now and then.
I know.
Right?
They can see you cough. You're a human.
Right, but...
Or dance.
Sorry. Or
people need to know that even though we hate each other, we can still have fun in the studio.
Yes, even though we absolutely despise being in the same room together. We find each other
brutal.
disgusting. What's the other words we'd use?
Repulsive.
I had repulsive. That was my next one. Let me think of one then, quick.
Annoying, frustrating, childish.
You can't have them all. You can't have them all.
Immature, some may say. Kind of 8th grade boyish. I don't know.
Why the boy?
I'm thinking
why
so
the boy?
Many.
I don't get that. Why the boy?
What? Why? What?
Immature, girlish. How's that?
Because girls have always been more mature than boys.
There you are. You're sexist.
No, that's a fact.
If a guy said that.
That's a fact that women's brains, like, okay, I need to look it up.
If I said women just aren't as intelligent as men. They're not. Women don't have the same learning capacities as men.
Yeah, ours
you
is much larger.
You would call me the biggest sexist you could possibly have in the world.
Because ours is much larger.
What? Your brain?
Yeah. We learn faster. No, it's for real though. Women mature at a younger age than men. That's why you got to date up. Are you older? No, Sue's older.
No.
You're older?
No, in a couple weeks, Sue turns 60. Don't give her age out on air, though.
Okay, don't tell anyone that her birthday's in a few weeks.
Don't tell her that, I don't know, December 3rd.
We're also close to birthday buddies.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I call you the plowed field birthday.
What?
Do you want me to explain it to you?
Yeah.
I remember when you were born. I have known her parents forever, or her dad certainly forever. But you're a plowed field baby.
January?
Well, you were born January what?
2nd.
Now, if they had you on December 31st, what would have happened?
Like taxes or something.
Or something.
I haven't had a kid yet. I don't know the logistics.
There'd be a lot of money, way more than hey, you got the New Year's baby. Here's a box of diapers. Right?
Except I wasn't even the New Year's baby. The year before I was born, the New Year's baby was like January 5th or something, and then I was born on the 2nd, and there was like 3 babies born on the 1st. So my mom didn't even get any perks.
So here's the thing, though, right? If you had been born December 31st. There would have been a big financial interest into the Miller family, right?
I'm better than that, though. They got me.
They would have had you either way. You're missing the point. Thus, the plowed field. Do you get it now?
No. How is a bunch of money tax
Your dad should have put your mom into a pickup with no suspension and drove around a plowed field. Yeah. Now I'm in trouble. See, now that's going to be seen as sexist.
No, you're just trying to get your child sooner because you're so excited for them to come into the world. That's why.
My mom was working shifts when we had Ashley, and I and my buddy Andy were out fixing water breaks, and we had a crew out there, so we pulled into the Manor Cafe to get burgers for everybody and go back out. And Mom was working shifts at 3 a.m. She came running into the cafe to tell me that Sue was going to the hospital to have the baby, which was like at least 3 weeks early.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there like, mud and looking like I'm fixing a water break and that kind of thing. And so I turn around and here's my mom in her pajamas because she's working shifts in a cafe full of people.
Were they nice pajamas?
They had been worn before. How would you describe? I think you've got an image now.
What does your mother wear to bed?
Let me just say, Mom didn't wear a bra to bed. Okay.
Yeah. Running into the cafe.
Yeah.
Did you go with?
I never went with her. She said, "Get to the doctor. Get to the Breckenridge. You're gonna
have a baby." Did you go there?
Well,
or did you
I went
wait,
there.
finish your burger?
Really? No, I went and drove around a plowed field and said,
by yourself.
Time to get to Breckenridge. People are mad at Sanford. We will get to these. I promise. I'm not ignoring your text messages. Stick around. More coming your way here on the News and Views Radio Network. 75948 1-800-880-5346. They showed me how to control the button when it comes to this YouTube
Yeah,
video.
turn on your. Oh, there's your camera.
Apologize.
No.
How
long?
I'll just sit here and wait for your apology.
I don't know if this is going to be consistent.
Well, it won't be. But the point is, you just chewed me out for not turning it on, and I had it on. I'll wait for your apology.
Okay,
now.
you did turn it on, but there was like a few seconds of a black screen.
Okay, I will sit here after you chewed me out for not having it on, and I had it on.
So how long do you think we can go with dead air? Of just like not saying anything, you know?
How long do you think we can go without you apologizing? Forever. Yeah. Forever.
I'm
as
sorry
long as we're into sex,
that
you didn't mean it. I'm going to get to Dana. Dana, you're on News and Views. Go ahead, Dana.
Hey, good morning, Joel, and everyone out there.
Morning to you, Dana.
I was looking at how they appropriated the money from the $1.1 billion COVID.
Yeah.
And I wanted to put an idea out there for the people and see what they think. They want to spend money for this pipeline for natural gas. And right now the fertilizer costs are, to me, it's price gouging and antitrust to the hilt. And this gas can be used to make fertilizer. So if they're going to set this up, set it up to do that, and then make the people shareholders, because it's our money they're using to build it, to where they get paid dividends off it instead of the state keeping all the money like legacy fund. Because if we want to change this, we got to have different ways of running. I just wanted to put that out there to you, Joel.
Well, I hope you talk to relatives about that too, because
I have.
It needs to happen. And let me give you a perfect example of what you're talking about. First off, the oil industry is going to profit from this natural gas pipeline. Agreed?
Absolutely.
Big time, right? They didn't want to do it because they said time and time again there wasn't enough money in the sale of it because of what you get for the product to justify the pipeline. So the state took care of it, all in the name of these small towns need it for economic development, for heating, all of that. Now you've got questions, okay? My buddy Tom, who delivers bulk fuel oil, or who delivers fuel oil to a lot of the little old ladies who still got a fuel burner, right? Those type of things. How does this affect him? It does. It affects him. You talked about fertilizer. I think that's a legitimate argument to bring into it. I think the pipeline's good, Dana. I think I would have voted for the pipeline having been in one of those chairs for 14 years. But I will tell you this, there would have been conditions on it in terms of the profits, where it goes. And if the profits started coming in from the oil industry, there would have been a payback plan.
Why ship it all the way across the state when our state and our states around us use it right here?
Well, and the other part I would argue is that could be done. That model could be used for a slaughter plant. Could be used.
Correct.
I mean, we've got the money.
Let's build us
right.
Instead of shipping all our talents out to the rest of the world.
Thank you, Dana. Appreciate it. This state needs to take a step back. What happened when it got so incredibly out there? The nonpartisan league, in my opinion, is what brought it all back. You know, it's so easy to throw out words like socialism, isn't it? I mean, that's what Republicans called Social Security, socialism. That's what they called Medicare, socialism. That's what they call Medicaid to this day, socialism. They don't want to admit that Grandpa and Grandma in the nursing home are on Medicaid. They don't want to admit that in their pocket they can probably afford to chip in to pay for the nursing home. They don't want to do that. They don't want to admit that in their small town, in order to keep that nursing home open, that close to 60 to 70% of the money that comes in to keep it open comes in through the form of Medicaid. Okay? That's just called socialism. They don't want to admit that when we built a rural electric grid, they called it socialism. They don't want to admit that when we built a rural telephone or a rural water grid, it was called socialism. But when it comes to the natural gas pipeline and it comes to delivering natural gas to all of these towns that the oil industry is going to benefit from, they don't want to use the word socialism. I'm not convinced the word socialism should have been used. That's not my point. My point is it's easy to throw words like that around when it's benefiting or when it isn't benefiting you. But when it is benefiting you, you're going to use the word capitalism. Now, if the state of North Dakota, through the powers it has in North Dakota, uses the Bank of North Dakota, uses the legacy funds, does what it can do for the ranchers of North Dakota, and builds a slaughter plant, builds a meat packing plant, and we benefit from the whole deal from our cattle ranchers' perspective and from maybe getting deeper into the cattle industry because, quite frankly, here's the thing. People eat beef. The beef market is strong. It is. I don't know if you've been there and bought a quarter of beef. I don't know if you've been to the local grocery store and picked yourself up a steak. But where's that money going? I can tell you where it's not going. It's not going into the ranchers' hands. That's where it's not going. And time and time, we can talk about country of origin labeling. We can talk about all that. I like it, and I always will like it, because I'll even pay more for that package of it if I know it was grown and raised here. Not everybody, and I realize this, and I couldn't do it when I was young, not everybody can afford a half a beef, or not everybody has a deep freeze to store a half a beef. I get it. Sue and I went from buying a half a beef to buying a half of a beef, which there's your test for the day, Ab. What's a half of a half?
Like, are we talking pounds?
No, because every critter weighs a little different. Half of a half is a quarter.
Oh. Is that the answer?
Well, it certainly would be a quarter beef, but the reason you call it a half of a half is you get the half of the front quarter and half of the back quarter, which means you got a little bit of everything, just not as much.
Yep.
Thus the half and a half. You'll get there. You're at a point where you and Gwen aren't buying all that much beef that way yet, but you'll get there. Trust me.
That's like nice beef is for a special occasion, I feel like.
when you were young, didn't your mom and dad they bought beef off the hoof, right? I'm sure they did.
Off the hoof?
They would go and they'd go to a Fairmont Lockers or a Maddock Meats or whatever, and they'd buy their beef there.
At the grocery store sometimes, but my dad liked to go to the Lockers,
It was a special occasion. When you went to the grocery store, you're either short or whatever.
Yep, you need it quick. But if we'd make the trip, to the Lockers, he'd prefer that.
Now, that doesn't change the fact that the same attitude is being done in Park River, for example, where the grocery store has a butcher plant.
Right in it?
Right in it. Right. And they can butcher, they can do certain things. Like they were cutting up deer meat when I left, right? So that's a big part of it. When I dropped my deer off at Fairmont Lockers, they had deer stacked up in there that they were getting after. That's why the cringe. I hope you were on YouTube right now doing that.
I am. And my mother texted me that she's watching me, so that's nice. So the thing is, my family was never a hunting family, and so I'm not used to seeing like the bodies, the meat. I just see it when it's cooked.
We'd call that the carcass.
Yeah, I just see it when it's cooked and I'm eating it.
And then it's no big deal.
Yeah, I made deer sausage once. I didn't love it. Didn't love that process.
So if I gave you a ring of deer sausage, would you eat it or not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I just don't need to see it happening. I don't need to see the deer going down, getting made into that deer sausage.
When I was up at Randy's at Jim's Super Value, he had a package of head cheese.
Oh. So I don't remember what head cheese is, but I remember it's really gross and I never want to try it.
In that package of head cheese, he's showing me.
It's just made of a bunch of crap, right?
Not crap. I mean, it's parts that you don't throw away.
Like a hot dog.
The old adage about pork was the only thing you throw away is the squeal, right? I mean, you soak the head. Go on YouTube sometime.
I don't know that I'm going to Google that.
It's interesting.
But people could go to YouTube and watch us.
Right. And you get the spoon out. Anyway, part of what he had in that package, you could see was chopped up part of the tongue.
No.
If nobody told you what that was, would you eat it?
What does it look like? Does it look like a tongue?
It looked like a tongue.
Then probably not.
But would you notice?
I feel like I would look at my food before I eat it.
Randy told me, he said it's the only meat that licks you back.
I remember that.
See, that was a good line.
He's not wrong.
Yeah.
He's not wrong on that.
Yeah, exactly. So my point, I kind of wandered off there.
Sidetracked a bit.
We did on butchering and how important local butchers are. You know, in my little corner of the world, I know who the butchers are. I know where they are. I know who's up in Hope. I know who's in Fairmont. I know who's in Great Bend. We used to have
know where the food's coming
great
from.
butcher in Hankinson, and he passed away. You know, those type of things. And then you know where it's from, right? But that doesn't mean that the meat in the grocery store isn't any good. In fact, I've bought a lot of great meat in the grocery store. A lot. But if it had that label on it, could you imagine if you were going to a grocery store and you could buy a pork loin, for example, or pork ribs? You're going to cook pork ribs for the summer. And you're going to put them on your Louisiana or your Traeger or your, I won't mention mine because you'll get mad about it, but you put them on that smoker and the package said U.S. or North Dakota, for example, where I live. Would you spend $1 more for that?
For sure, yeah.
Exactly. And all joking aside, you would.
Yeah.
Right? So, people can talk about distribution. It's called work. You figure out a process. You figure out a way. We got money sticking out of our ears. We do. All right, there's my preach on behalf of the ranchers for the day. Now we'll see if it did anything, and here's the answer. No, it won't, because nobody is visionary like Dana was getting at. Nobody wants to take a risk on things like that. The old NPL did. That's why we have a state bank. That's why we have a state mill and elevator, because somebody took a risk. And you know what those two things do for North Dakota? They make money. They make significant money. Let's get to the weather cave and visit with Too Tall. Tom, she was a windy drive up today, buddy. All right, I want to get to some
Hey,
of
where's
these
your
facts.
camera?
I'm doing it, right? Boom, there.
Okay.
How we doing?
There we go.
Maybe I wanted to dance. Maybe I wanted to sing. Maybe I wanted to holler. There's a lot of maybes there, isn't there? I'm just getting used to this YouTube video deal.
We gave you security to run your own camera, so
that's going to be touch and go. Can we just say this? I want to get to some of the facts a good friend sent me. Joe Biden was at a bridge yesterday, Woodstock, New Hampshire. In New Hampshire, one of 215 unsafe bridges. Okay, you think this infrastructure bill isn't important? I want to talk about Gary Palmer. Gary is a Republican from Alabama. Now, Gary told his constituents, and he went home and he sung the praises of this infrastructure bill. He told them, funding the Northern Beltline has consistently been one of my main priorities. He added that Birmingham is currently one of the largest metropolitan areas in the country without a complete beltline around it. Completing the Northern Beltline will benefit the entire region and enhance economic development and employment opportunities. Completion of the road will create more than $2 billion in 10 years, he said. He noted, and could create 14,000 jobs. Now, here's the thing about Mr. Palmer, Congressman Palmer. You ready for it? He voted against it. I told you this was going to happen. I told you. He ran home. He laid credit. Oh my God, this thing, I'm finally got her done, folks. I finally got it done. I finally got the belt line around Birmingham. Here, this is what it's about. This is how it goes in D.C. Is somebody going to call BS? Is somebody going to look at Congressman Palmer and say, you don't get to have it both ways? You didn't work on this. You got partisan. You didn't do it. You're loving the fact that the individuals that had the courage to vote for that infrastructure are getting death threats. Have the ex-president of the United States of America coming out, calling them rhinos, saying he's going to campaign against them, actively finding candidates to run against them, even though they're from his own party. And yet Palmer's rushing home to lay claim to it. In the wake of the 2008 crash, the government underinvested in the economy. Now let's talk about the pandemic. Same thing, right? I mean, same thing, except Congress passed the $2.2 trillion bipartisan CARES Act in December 2020, the $900 billion bipartisan aid package. Then, in March of 2021, the Democrats passed the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. Where did that money go? It got into the hands of the North Dakota legislature. It went to farmers who don't want to admit it, right? Let's just take a step back. And here's the thing about it that I think people need to recognize. News broke today that the government had badly underestimated job growth. Between June and September, the Bureau of Labor Statistics underestimated job growth by 626,000 jobs. Goldman Sachs, I'm running out of time, but these facts are going to come up. They're going to come up tomorrow, I guarantee you, and then we can dispute them. But Congressman Palmer, when you shave tomorrow, be ashamed when you look at yourself. Good riding with you, folks.